Welcome to Teacher Tech Cafe for the weekly TNT. This week we're going to be using Google Forms to create peer reviews. Today we're going to be using Google Forms to collect peer feedback on projects or presentations, writing, anything that you want to use them for. So I have some setup to begin. I've created a folder for peer feedback, and inside that folder I did another folder, and I just titled it Peer Feedback Merge Docs, and this will make more sense as we go along, but this is where the students' individual feedback will go from the spreadsheet. The next thing that I did is I imported a student list. Now, you could get this from your grade book. I need the student names and I need the student emails if I am planning on emailing the individual feedback to each student. If you're not planning on using email to get that information to them, then you can skip the email portion. So in my drive, I have that student list, or somewhere where I can access a student list. And I have created a Google Doc template for the feedback to go into. And so we'll talk more about what these merge cells are in this, but you can see that I have just this template going on here. And I'll come back to this and tell you why I created this in this fashion. But I just want you to see some of these things up front that you need to build. Now, I have a form that I have created, and these are where these merge tags are coming from. So this is just a simple Google form. I did not go through the building of it just for sake of time, but I have that this is a peer evaluation. I gave some instructions to use the rubric listed below, to be constructive and to help them improve, but to remember to be nice. You can put any kind of wording you want to there. So the first thing is I want the name of the person who is doing the evaluating. I made this a short answer text because this is not going to be important in sending the feedback. The next question I put in, who are you evaluating? This will be important. Rather than have kids type the person's name, I want to use a drop-down menu, because if they make any type of mistake in typing the name, it's not going to go in the correct place. I am just going to select all of these names and copy. I'll now go back into my form and paste these. Now this is, in my question choices, a drop down. That way it's not taking up a bunch of space on the form. You can see alphabetical list of the kids. I'm going to do the same thing with the email addresses. And so let me grab those. And of course, if you're not going to email out information, you would skip this question. I will put that in. My next question asks for an overall rating. I've chosen from 1 to 5, being from poor to excellent. You could do any type of questions you want on this form. This is entirely up to you. But this gives the kids something to go by. Now I'm going to sidetrack here for just a minute and tell you about this options menu. If you go on the skinny snowman here, the 3 dots, and go down to preferences, you can make all questions required here. And I do that as a rule, because if I'm putting a question in, most of the time I want it answered. So I click Save, and so I don't have to turn on the required button each time that I type a question. The next question says rate the following. grammar, presentation skills, creativity, and organization. And then I've listed the ratings from unacceptable to amazing. And of course you can word this how you want it. You can be much more descriptive in these. Let me show you quickly how one of these questions is created. I'm going to add a question here, and I can come back in and delete it. And so I want to choose in my question type a multiple choice grid. And it looks a little bit strange when I set this up. My question, rate the following. And here are the rows, and you can see on mine above I did grammar, presentation skills, and so on. I'll just do 3 here. My columns can be anything, but I chose to do 1 as unacceptable, and this one I will just do 3 choices as well for time's sake. Average, and I will do 3 excellent. Alright, that's all there is to setting up one of these type questions. Now you can see whenever I click on the next thing how it creates the question, and I have my rows and columns, and the students would then be able to select a bubble under the heading that they choose. Let me go back in and delete that question now that you've seen how to do that. Same thing on the overall rating up here. That is just a linear scale question from 1 to, and I chose 5. You can go up to 10 on that. So that's a linear scale, 1 to 5, and I chose to put poor and excellent in as my descriptors. The last question is constructive feedback, and I put in a paragraph, and I told the students what I expected. I want specifics about the ratings they chose above. I want 2 positives and constructive feedback on what could be improved based on those 4 categories. And also to tell the peer one thing that student's wondering now that they've seen or read their project. So this gives some evidence on why they chose these things up here. That's all there is to setting up the form. Now we're going to go and set up the document that's going to provide this feedback. One other thing I need to do before I leave is to set up my spreadsheet for the evaluations. So I'm going to click on the word responses and click the little green spreadsheet icon here, and it will ask, do I want to create a new or select existing? I'm creating a new spreadsheet, and it does the work for me. So I can see a timestamp, it's titled, and it's got all of my questions. Now if I want to use this spreadsheet, I can go in and change the width of the columns. I can select the columns, and I can go up here, and on my text I can choose to, my text wrapping, I can bring it and wrap it around so that I can read everything. This is great for you. Now the kids are going to be getting something else, but that way you will easily be able to see who did the evaluating for which person, and then the answers to those questions. Now let's talk about this merge document where the template is going to create this feedback for our students. So I've got my spreadsheet with my questions listed over here, and I have created this template just as a Google Doc. Now sometimes merge tags have to be worded exactly like they are in the spreadsheet. We're going to link these, and so this is just for me to be able to identify, so they don't have to match exactly. I'm using, you can see the little sideways caret there, that I have put 2 of those on each side of these merge tags. and the very first one, this can say anything. You can add all types of text, you can add pictures, or it can be just simple. Here I have feedback 4, and this is for me. I put it inside of these little merge tags, person being evaluated. That's going to come from this question, who are you evaluating? And then I put a comma, your feedback from, and I just put name. That's going to come from this question, what is your name? I did overall rating and put in the word overall in those merge tags. Grammar, presentation skills, creativity, organization, and then I asked the question, what constructive feedback do you have? And put feedback inside. We are now going to make the magic happen inside of our spreadsheet. So I'm going to use an add-on, and I click add-ons. I've already got the add-on that we'll be using, which is Autocrat. But if you don't have this add-on, you're going to click Get Add-ons and search for Autocrat. And you can see there it is. You're going to add that, and then you will be able to use it. So let me show you how Autocrat works. I click Add-ons, Autocrat. I want to launch this. It will pop up with this window here in the middle of your spreadsheet. And so this particular spreadsheet does not have a merge job yet. So we want to click New Job. And it does take a couple of seconds. I'm going to call this Peer Evaluations. I click Next. Now I want to choose a template that's going to merge all of this information. So I've been playing with it. I could use recently used templates. If you have just created your first template, you need to select from Drive and find that template that you have designed that just has the generic info in it. And so let me look down through here. There's my peer feedback template, and I select that. I click Next. This is where our tags from the template are going to be matched to the columns in the spreadsheet. So I can click here, my person being evaluated matched this question, who are you evaluating? The name, that's the person that is doing the evaluating. Overall, I look down here, overall rating. Grammar, I do this for all of these. That's why I just had to give myself enough information in those merge tags to be able to find the question again. If you get here and you decide you need to add something, you can use your back and go back and start over. So don't think I did that. There were some things I wanted to fix, and so I just used my back button, fixed, and then came back. Now I click Next. And what do I want to do? I want it to be a Google Doc. You can also make that a PDF if you choose. I need to give this file a name, and I want it to be different for each student. So I'm going to call this Peer Evaluation. But then I want it to have the person's name who's getting evaluated. Now this tag has to be exact from the column of the spreadsheet. So Autocrat gives you this little menu here on the left, and it says click to copy to clipboard. And I want who are you evaluating. I'm going to click that. It copies it to my clipboard, and I can then paste that. It has to be exact even down to the question mark. I now click Next. I do have this on multiple output mode. That means it's going to make a different sheet for each student, and that's what I want. Next, I have to decide where I want this page to go. Now, I'm currently in my demo folder, but I created one just for the student papers because I wanted to keep all of those together. and there it is, Peer Feedback Merge Docs. So I'm going to select that folder, click Next. This dynamic folder reference gives you the option to send to specific folders. I'm not going to do that. And you can set conditional merge things. I don't want to do that either. Now, do I want to share a document and send emails? If you are going to send these out to your students in email, then yes. If you're going to have to do this manually because your students don't have email and you're somehow going to share the document with them to a Google Drive, then you could leave this no. But I want to share as an email. Now, I don't want them to edit this document, so I want it to be a view-only doc. I don't care if they allow collaborators to reshare. They're not a collaborator, it's a view only, so this makes no difference. I don't need to send it from a generic no reply address, so no here. I'm going to use tags again to send this out, and I need to get the what is their email address question in here. If you use this menu over here and it says if you click on that you should be able to copy and paste, you can see it's glitching on me. It's not picking the right question. No problem. I'll just put in my two little arrows and I'm going to go up here and copy this question. What is their email address? And I don't know why that glitches, but sometimes it does. I'll paste that in and I'll close it with those merge tags. So it's going to put in the student's email address there. And I don't need any other information. It will go into your sent folder, so don't worry about sending it to you. In the subject, I'm going to type your feedback from, and then remember this is the person, that question, what is your name? And I'll go ahead and try that. It may glitch on me again. And it seems to be picking up the previous question. So I'm going to go ahead and put in merge tags. I'll copy what is your name. And I'll paste that in and close those. You can type a custom message down here. You can use tags in there as well. And so I won't go through that now. You can create whatever type of message you want. Click Next. Now this, if you run on a trigger, if you say yes, as soon as the student submits the form, it will send this to the student who is receiving the feedback. If you want to run it after you have seen the responses and make sure there's nothing inappropriate, then you want to leave these as no. You can also have it go on a time trigger. My suggestion is either run it immediately by clicking yes, or leave it no, and I'll show you how to run it when you're ready to manually. And so I'll click Save. Now you're ready for your students to use this form to evaluate others. I'm going to click on the preview here, and we'll pretend to be a student. So my name, I'll put that in. Who are we evaluating? And so we'll click this drop down menu and let's do an evaluation of Eddie Poe. And so what is his email address? And of course these would not be these random fake emails. We would have Eddie's email, but I'll click that one. What was the overall rating? I think that he did a good job. Go through, his grammar was well done, presentation skills were average. I thought he was very creative and his organization was pretty good as well. And then I would type it in my feedback. We would want students to do really a good job on this. I'm just going to say, you were great. And submit. Now let's take a look at our spreadsheet. Here we are. I'm going to click Add-ons, Autocrat, and and open, remember we left this to run manually. If we had done it on the trigger, you would see some things populating in these columns. But because I'm running manually, I have to open up Autocrat again, and it takes a minute to load. We see here is the existing job, peer evaluations. This little play button is what runs the job. So I'm going to click Run the Job, and you could do this after all of your students have filled out their evaluations. And as it's running this job, we'll see things happening in the spreadsheet up here above. These columns are being filled in with information. And now the job's done. It has been emailed to Eddie Poe. Now I can see the document. Let me click on that link. This is what Eddie Poe received, and it says feedback for Poe, Eddie. Of course, I've got them by last name. Your feedback from Sherry Hall, overall rating. It gives the descriptors from each of those little bubbles that the students filled in. And then it has the constructive feedback at the bottom. So this is what they would receive in their email. You have it inside your drive in that peer feedback folder, that folder that we chose. So all of the evaluations would be in here. Now let's say that you don't have email for your students. You could then go into this evaluation, and I could share that with your student with Eddie Poe and put his Google login here, and we don't want him to edit. We just want him to be able to maybe comment or just view. Put that in, click Done, and it would go to his Shared With Me folder, and he would be able to see that. That's it for today in creating peer review forms that will send individual evaluations to your students. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your kids have genius. Let them own it. If you've got great ideas, share those using the hashtag #ReleasingGenius.